2 Samuel 5:11 through 6:23. Then the king and his men went to Jerusalem against the Jebusites who inhabited the land. They told David, "You shall not enter here. The blind and the lame will drive you away," which was their way of saying, "David shall not enter here." David nevertheless captured the fortress of Zion, which is the city of David. On that day, David said, "All who wish to strike at the Jebusites must attack through the water shaft. The lame and the blind shall be personal enemies of David. That is why it is said, 'The blind and the lame shall not enter the palace.'" David took up residence in the fortress, which he called the city of David. David built up the city on all sides, from the Milo towards the center. David became ever more powerful, for the Lord of hosts was with him. Hiram, king of Tyre, sent envoys to David, along with cedar wood and carpenters and masons, who built a house for David. David now knew that the Lord had truly established him as king over Israel and exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people Israel. David took more concubines and wives in Jerusalem after he had come from Hebron, and more sons and daughters were born to him. The names of those who were born to him in Jerusalem: Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Nepheg, Japhiah, Elishama, Biliada, and Eliphalet. When the Philistines heard that David was anointed king over Israel, they marched out in force to come after him. When David heard this, he went down to the refuge. Meanwhile, the Philistines had come and deployed themselves in the valley of Rephaim. David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I attack the Philistines, and will you deliver them into my power?" The Lord answered David, "Attack, for I will surely deliver the Philistines into your power." So David went to Baal-perazim, and he defeated them there. He said, "The Lord has broken through my enemies before me, just as water breaks through a dam." Therefore that place was called Baal-perazim. The Philistines abandoned their gods there, and David and his men carried them away. Once again the Philistines came up and deployed themselves in the valley of Rephaim, and David again inquired of the Lord, who replied, "Do not attack the front circle behind them and come against them near the balsam trees. When you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, act decisively, for then the Lord has already gone before you to strike the army of the Philistines." David did as the Lord commanded him, and routed the Philistines from Gibeon as far as Gezer. David again assembled all the picked men of Israel, 30,000 in number. Then David and all the people who were with him set out for Baalah of Judah to bring from there the ark of God, which bears the name, "The Lord of Hosts, enthroned above the cherubim." They transported the ark of God on a new cart and took it away from the house of Abinadab on the hill. Uzzah and Ahio, sons of Amminadab, were guiding the cart. With Ahio walking before it, while David and all the house of Israel danced before the Lord with their might, with singing and with lyre, harps, tambourines, sistrums, and cymbals. As they reached the threshing floor of Nodad, Uzzah stretched out his hand to the ark of God and steadied it, for the oxen were tipping it. Then the Lord became angry with Uzzah. God struck him on that spot, and he died there in God's presence. David was angry because the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah. Therefore that place has been called Perez-Uzzah, even to this day. David became frightened of the Lord that day, and he said, "How can the ark of the Lord come to me?" So David was unwilling to take the ark of the Lord with him into the city of David. David deposited it instead at the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite for 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. When it was reported to the king that the Lord had blessed the household of Obed-Edom and all that he possessed because of the ark of God. David went to bring up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with joy. As soon as the bearers of the ark of the Lord had advanced 6 steps, he sacrificed an ox and a fatling. Then David came dancing before the Lord with Abidan girt with a linen ephod. David and all the house of Israel were bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouts of joy and sound of horn. As the ark of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, looked down from her window, and when she saw King David jumping and dancing before the Lord, she despised him in her heart. They brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in its place within the tent which David had pitched for it. Then David sacrificed burnt offerings and communion offerings before the Lord. When David had finished sacrificing burnt offerings and communion offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts, and distributing among the people, the entire multitude of Israel, to every man and every woman, 1 loaf of bread, 1 piece of meat, and 1 raisin cake. Then all the people returned to their homes. When David went to bless his own house, Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet him and said, "How well the king of Israel has honored himself today, exposing himself to the view of the slave girls of his followers, as a commander might expose himself." But David replied to Michal, "I was dancing before the Lord, as the Lord lives, who chose me over your father and all his house when he appointed me ruler over the Lord's people, Israel. Not only will I make merry before the Lord, but I will demean myself even more. I will be lowly in your eyes, but in the eyes of the slave girls you spoke of, I will be somebody." Saul, Michal's daughter, was childless to the day she died.